All right, let's get on with some questions. Mel Atwood always has really, really good questions. Clay, I want you to summarize the Nolan case. I know we did this on our last live, but this is where the FTC got a successful outcome against Nolan and Success by Health. What are the key takeaways of that case that we can learn from?
I mean, the biggest thing is that Costco is still the pyramid test. So pretty much every company in the industry right now is going to satisfy element number one, which means a payment of money somehow to enter the opportunity. So as the Costco case said, the sine qua non, the most important thing is always going to be that second element. And so that's rewards paid unrelated to product sales, rewards unrelated to product sales. And so that's the most important thing we need to look at. And so that really puts into question the monthly volume requirements and like the pay to play aspects of individuals. Are they just buying at the end of the month $100 of something to qualify on the 30th of every month, or are they actually consuming the product? Are they having genuine customer sales? That's kind of where the court was taking it. We all know that from Costco. And then the court also doubled down on the Burn Lounge case from 2015. And it said that internal consumption is not necessarily illegal, but you have to have proof that they're buying for the genuine value of the product. And the biggest issue right now, and kind of what you guys are talking about earlier, is regulators will take the most nefarious interpretation of a compensation plan, of data, or whatever. So you have to have appropriate record keeping to show that what they're saying is false. Success by Health, I think, had a lot of issues in the way that they were forcing product down people's throats. They were saying income claims, so you have to go to these events to be successful. It's a very egregious example, but I think there's a lot of good value under the hood of the case, because as soon as the compensation plan was taken away, 95% of the sales disappeared. That's an issue. And I know we have questions later on about the distinction between customers, like non-distributor customers, and customers. It's hard to wrap your head around selling a product that you don't use personally, but unfortunately, that's kind of the angle that the FTC and regulators are taking. So
yeah, I'll jump in there. That was a good summary. What I always tell people is Mel first asked a question regarding, hey, if element one is not met, does element two matter? Meaning the payment of money to participate in the program. And that's a fair question. So what if it were free to join the program? I can't think of the cases on top of my head, but the court always finds a way to say element one is met, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it be the auto ship program or something. But also, if it's free to join a program, well, now all of a sudden you don't have customers, because that was Vima's problem. Mm-hmm. It was free to join. And even though a lot of people were buying under the volume requirement, so they weren't buying to qualify, clearly.
True.
Just because they were in the database, they weren't considered to be customers. And so somebody asked a question, help us to discern customer versus distributor. This is the age-old question, and I'll boil it down really fast so I don't bore anybody. The second element Clay mentioned, rewards unrelated to product sales. Well, suppose we sell $10,000 energy drinks, okay? It's not a real product. So how do the courts discern if a product is legitimate or not? The most objective tool they have is they look at people outside of the program. That's why it's really important to have not just distributors buying, because you can get distributors to pay $10,000 for energy drinks. We know that. In order to maximize their earning potential, they'll do it. Companies need to show that people outside of the network spend the money on the thing. What percentage does that need to be? Well, we know more is better. There's Sure. no bright line rule. If 49% of your revenue comes from customers, it's a pyramid scheme. 51%, it's not. We just know that more is better, and that the general rule of thumb is the majority of revenue has to come from customers. And so companies need to get really good at coding that and tracking that and incentivizing that, having incentives in the plan, not just about recruitment, but about moving product.
Yeah,
that's key.
Well, there's two things here that you guys bring up on the customers, and I want to go backwards to one of the cases that we know their forensic accountant proved they've got enough customers they didn't even need a network, and that was Advocare. You know, they were able to show, look, we got so many customers, we got rid of the network, it's not going to hurt our bottom line. but we're also seeing a new trend, two new trends. The first one's Amazon. A lot of these guys are going to Amazon. They're gating their product. They're selling it at retail or above. Will that help if regulators come in and look at an internal consumption in the network itself? Do those outside customers count when they look at the overall customer base?
That's a good hypothetical. And I was asked that yesterday by a potential client. They're saying, hey, we're already selling this on Amazon. We can prove value. My answer is regulators care about the opportunity being presented to the rep. And that opportunity is you can make money selling this product. So those reps, the volume needs to be part of the pay plan. Okay. So I think it's interesting, excuse me, to show value outside of the network. But I think it's really important to show that this opportunity runs on customer acquisition.
Right. Okay. And also I'll answer that as well. So I think it was the Nolan case in their burn lounge discussion. They said, this is really interesting to me. They said that it's not necessarily a pyramid if the products are valueless, and it's not necessarily not a pyramid if the products are valuable. Does that make sense? Did that come out right?
No, it went over my head.
Okay. So if the products don't have value, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a pyramid. But if the products do have value, it doesn't mean there's not a pyramid.
Okay, so
it's the way the pay plan works and why people are buying is the core issue. It's
the motivation.
If I've got these glasses, which we know they're valuable, but they're in a company and the comp plan's screwed up or marketed wrong, I may still have a pyramid scheme, even though there's. Okay, got it.
Correct.
Okay, so that brings up a question then. And I'm gonna use the company name because it's the only one in the industry that's doing this. But with what both of you just said, and talking about internal consumption, if we look at the Live Good model, it's a membership-based model. It's like a Melaleuca on steroids. They don't pay the rep on product sales, so there's no internal consumption with the products. Can that be seen as a benefit? Could that be a new white paper or case study where we say, look, we know we've got products, they're priced right, people are buying them, even though the rep's not getting paid on that?
Yeah, so that's like a Costco model, right? A membership model for access to product. And so disclosure, I still haven't looked thoroughly in the Live Good model. And if they use any statement that we make as some sort of endorsement of their program, I'll light that house on fire. Those people piss me off. And actually, that's a red flag when you see just distributors desperate for credibility. Hey, look at this weird isolated statement from a lawyer over here. We're totally clean. You don't see that sort of behavior from responsible companies. You don't see Amway doing that. You don't see Herbalife doing that. So that culture, I find to be pretty repulsive when I see that. Now, I'm not saying that's it. That's everyone. Okay. If a membership can be a product, but again, you have to show that membership has value to people that are not making money in the network. So customers, somebody who's not a Live Good member, I would need to say, hey, look, I want access to their products. They've got good stuff. I'm willing to pay $50 a month for access to their stuff. They have to prove that customers are also participating in the membership. What I've been told, or what seems to be the case, is I think everybody that pays the membership fee is in the network. And that's a problem, because if that's the case, I'm not saying it's the case. If it's the case, then they have no customers, zero.
No, and that's not the case. What everybody that pays the $9.99, Kevin, is a member, which I like that part. However, and this goes back to something Clay just said, based on the Nolan case, there is a $40 mandatory fee that is commissionable to be a rep in the company. So that's
I'm sorry to cut you off. That immediately triggers, like, if it's an administrative fee that only reps pay, then that fee it's not a product sale, right? It's not a product sale. It's an administrative fee. And remember what pyramiding is: rewards unrelated to product sales. And so that's network marketing law 101. You can't take enrollment money and put that in the pay plan. So that is a problem.
Yeah, that's my only concern. But I like the fact, with what you guys just said, if there's products being sold to a consumer and those consumers are brought from the network, which is the case with Live Good. These guys are out here, everybody pays $9.90 9, you get great products, inexpensive. That seems to, and they're not, I need to make it clear, they're not a client. I'm like Kevin, I'm not endorsing, I'm not happy, I see issues, but I do like the fact it seems, based on their information, they've got products being shipped out like crazy to people because the network is saying, come become a member, you get good prices. And that seems it would be a good thing overall.
Are they able to move product to all these foreign markets? Apparently they're in like 600 different territories, and I made that up. It's some stupid number.
Yeah, it is. And we have this thing inside of network marketing called NFR, not for resale. Kevin, you can correct me, but I think you need to register your products in any country. There's no such thing as just shipping the product. Maybe it's an e-commerce sale. Maybe, if it's on Amazon or something, you can get away with that. But I think in a court of law, I think these countries would snap at these guys and block them. I've seen it with my own clients that have gone NFR in the old days with stuff. So I don't think they can actually ship their products.
And we're assuming they're even shipping products. Like I've seen messages where people say they just pay the membership fee, and they're in a territory where they don't even have access to product. They can't get shipments. And so then if that's the case, then there is no customer value there. You're not going to have customers paying a fee to join a platform where they can't get products. So there's some.
Okay. And I don't want to belittle that. And I'm not, the company's the company, what they're doing is doing. It's just when I look at the lawsuits and I look at what Clay's been putting out on some of these lawsuits, that's what raises concerns with me for the community. Not even, look, individual companies have a right to run their company however they want to, but when I look at the overall, and I know that the FTC now is looking at individual claims, and I know that we just saw this with Young Living, 3 individual reps got nailed and had to pay fines for claims that they made. It just concerns me that we're giving actual ammunition to the critics because we're out here promoting stuff and not taking a first principles logical approach to say, hey, should I back off on my rhetoric? Should I change my rhetoric? Should I listen to what some of these guys and gals are saying? That's the part I think that it just gives regulators and everybody else more and more ammo to come against the community.
And I think a lot of it, they don't look under the hood until, I think income claims are the biggest issue that they're targeting right now. That's really what puts the target on your back. Then that gives them an excuse to dive deeper of, oh, is this true? Is this typical? And then, oh, yikes, we found a whole bucket full of issues. That's kind of what we've seen lately as well. It all starts there with the rhetoric from not only the company, but also the distributors, because in the Nolan case, for example, all of the brochures and stuff that had these like lucrative income claims and things were considered to be means and instrumentalities of promoting a pyramid. So that's kind of what the court said, and that's an issue as well.
Suggestions that Clay and I make that are rarely adhered to. This concept isn't very popular. And actually, I haven't, with the exception of Herbalife, I haven't seen a single company do this. There's a crypto exchange out there called Gemini, and they've got a disclosure page. And on that disclosure page, they disclose a whole bunch of sensitive topics about their business, which I think is great. I think they call it a trust page or something. Mm-hmm. And I think if companies were to, instead of having regulators assume all of these things, and regulators assume that customer sales are minimal, for example, like Naora, they've got 70% of their revenue comes from customers, and they got that in court. They were able to prove that in the case. I think if the regulators had seen that in advance, they would have been less likely to file an action. And so I think companies should consider having a trust page where they disclose these numbers. Now, of course, if the numbers suck, then don't disclose them. But if the numbers are good, why keep it secret? So I think that's important. I don't know if that is on topic to what we're currently talking about, but I think
it is, because no, you're on it, Kevin, because we're seeing this now. That probably is due to some regulatory overspray when it comes to crypto, but we're seeing that transparency more and more and more, at least in US based companies, where they're saying, look, here's our assets. You can look at what we've got. You can see where our leverage is. You can see what people want. That if there's been any type of hiccup, and Herbalife let's go back to that, because they kind of did make that hiccup on an investor's call when they originally said,
We
don't
can't track it.
customers. Yeah. I mean, that was one of it was sad for them, but it was really great for this community because people started tracking customers. If that was going to be a focal point, we start tracking customers. So anytime we can show transparency, I think that's what you want to do. And some people may disagree. Steve Wallach and I've had this call many times, because as a public company, their pants are always down around their ankles. You can't hide anything. We're either there or we're not. And I think if more companies did that, we'd see more trust in this industry.
Yeah. That's important. Yeah, tracking customer data is important, but also I think it should be disclosed. Another suggestion that we just don't see much traction on is this idea of MVRs, minimum volume requirements. It's common and it's not illegal. And what an MVR is, it says, look, in order to be active in our business, in order to be eligible for a check, you have to move 100 points a month or whatever it is. The problem is, if people can satisfy that just by buying, then that's a data point in favor of on the regulator side. So people are just buying to qualify. So our suggestion has been, and I want to know what you think about this. If there's an MVR, if number one, you don't have to have one. Amway doesn't have one. If you want to buy. If you don't, you don't. You're qualified either way. You get paid on volume. If you have one, 50% has to come from registered customers. Nobody's doing that. What do you think about that?
I think probably BK is the only one that's doing it. I think Body Pro has to do it. That was part of the settlement coming out of the VEMA deal. I'm 100% for that, because it at least gives you some balance. And too many times I think we get into this mindset, and I can do this. There's no doubt, from my tattoos to my public exposure, I love my country. I'm not a fan of its government sometimes. And I got to look at that and say, okay, if this is the regulatory focus, then how can we work within it so that we don't burn energy by fighting it all the time? So if we need to have a balance, and we need a 50-50 or a 51-49, not because it's mandatory, but because it's best practice and it allows us to grow businesses, I think it's a great move. I think people should look at that if they're going to have a minimum volume requirement.
Yeah. And if you can't do that, you should probably do a deep dive and see why you're giving us that answer, because there might be more issues that will just come to light later. So you're hiding.
Very fair.
Like Kevin likes to say, you're putting makeup on a pig, but it'll be a pig when it comes off again.